I really hope the camping doesn't get complicated again anytime soon. This has spoiled me after the East Coast. It has been getting down to like the mid 30s, low 30s occasionally at night. I've yet to have anything freeze, though I am occasionally taking like freeze precautions, meaning putting my water filter and my batteries inside the sleeping bag. I probably came down a little further than I needed to last night. Thing is, when you're up above looking down, everything looks a lot flatter than it is. So you see something like that and you're like, oh, it's flat. Then you get here and it's tilted. Now, I tend to like being on a slight slant because if it's dead flat, it's kind of hard to tell if your head's uphill or downhill, and having your head downhill is very, very uncomfortable. There is a certain degree, though, where I start sliding down towards the foot of the tent, and that's a bit much. It's a bigger problem when I have my air mattresses, and I have done the things like putting, shoe goo or things on the bottom of the tent to give it a little more traction. But again, with the foam, you can actually be on a pretty good slant. I might have been able to stay by the water source last night. There were a few kind of marginal sites. Honestly, I have shied away from stuff like that and leaned towards dry camping for years, just because in busier areas, and I don't know how used this timberline trail is, the newer folks often don't know how to dry camp. It's a thing you have to get used to, where okay, I need 2.5 liters every night comfortably, fill up, then find the site. So, like on the PCT, there were huge crowds around every water source, so I very quickly just got in the habit of get my water and set up someplace else. Because again, busier campsites, they tend to have more trash, more critter issues, more noise. I've had people on the AT set up basically right next to me and then start like chain smoking and just flooding my tent. So I have certain habits that I just go with. Speaking of crowds, I did really enjoy the CDT Colorado Trail overlap. Unlike the AT, where I didn't meet a single through hiker when I passed Harper's Ferry, I got to meet a good amount of Sobos, CDT Sobos, and a variety of Colorado Trail folks, and they were fun to talk to. I did try and sell some people on the Black Hills down in New Mexico, but I think groupthink's a little too strong there. My guess is that is going to be pretty close to it as far as busy trail overlaps. I've looked ahead a little bit. I'm just barely starting to look at Utah. Utah does get into some parks and things, but by the time I get to the Pacific Crest Trail, all the southbounders will be long gone, if I make it that far. I mean, I've got to be realistic. I don't know when winter's coming, and I have taken a hit as far as my weekly mileage these last couple of weeks due to getting sick and the foot issues and just the realities of, multiple 12,000 foot passes I've got to get over. I've also been getting back into my bad habits of not getting out of the tent super early. I basically always wake up sometime around 5:30, no matter what, unless I've been hiking half the night. But it has been in the mid 30s and damn chilly feeling a good amount of the time, and that tends to lead to me finding excuses to work on videos and other things and hang inside of the tent. Partially that is due to another quirk of mine, which is I like to get everything done in camp. By the time I leave camp, I'm wearing the hiking clothes I'm going to wear for the entire day, shy of some big change where I have to dig out my long johns. I've been through my my bathroom run. I've made breakfast. I've made my coffee. I've done my edits. And so once I leave, I can just get going. I know friends that roll out of bed at 4 o'clock, hike until the sun up, stop and cook breakfast then. And I have experimented with things like that. It's just, I like how I do it, especially with the amount of daily effort I put into video edits these days. I have been switching between my Gaia app with the Hiking America / American Discovery Trail Society data and Far Out while I was on the CDT, just to see where people were. And, you know, the water source beta is always nice and convenient on far out. Now I am back on Gaia. As near as I can tell, this trail is going to take me for about 10 miles and then dump me back on some sort of road, whether that's going to be busy and paved or some little, like, you know, decaying Jeep road off in the forest. Who knows? I have about 45 miles from last night in order to get to Crested Butte. I have one more dinner. I am hoping I can get back more to a normal pace, but we'll see. For all I know, there is some big pass or something up here that I missed. So my rough aim is going to be Crested Butte tomorrow, get a hotel, recharge, fill up, food resupply, and then I'm going to kind of settle into these 70, 80 mile food carries for the most part. There are a few shorter ones here and there. I did have rough plans for my parents to come see me one more time. There's basically before I got to Grand Junction. I don't know if that's going to happen or not. We were trying to take care of a couple of different things, including I usually swap my phone out every year to try and get, you know, the best footage I can. That was one of the things I was taking care of on Hope's Pass yesterday morning, but I had a bit of a glitch during checkout, so that's not being delivered until early October, and I may be too far away for them to want to drive and see me. So we'll see. That's more of a nice to have versus a critical, but I am looking forward to some of the new features, like I'm going to be able to text Jen via satellite from my phone. I won't even have to pay the extra money for the inReach. I can just keep the inReach as my emergency and preset check-in beacon. And I would like to get the new phone because, quite frankly, I don't trust most of the like YouTube or review coverage of those sort of things, because they're trying to rush out a review versus actually living with it. This is why I don't watch a lot of the like YouTube gear reviews or things like that. If anything, if I'm thinking about a tent, I'll try and find some video somebody took of XYZ tent in hurricane force winds just to see if it holds up. A lot of reviews, I mean, they're trying to review gear, so they get it, they play around with it a little bit, and then they set it up in their backyard and take some footage. And the reality for me is a little bit different. You know, if I had just gone with, oh wow, that isn't a bad view for this morning. I remember when I started to gear up for doing the Pacific Crest Trail, and I mean, you would think like the Z-Pax Duplex is the only tent to get based on kind of like the YouTube influencer sort of folks. And I looked at it, and it's expensive. They're known for having kind of quality issues with a lot of the sewing. They take a really, really big footprint, and DCF is just not a durable enough material for the way I use a tent. I'm not just on these nice dirt tent pads and things like that. Meanwhile, at the time, somebody was spreading around online that Hornets don't hold up in the rain. And I still have not managed to track down like who thought that, because I'm pretty sure that I have the world record for amount of rain in a Nemo Hornet the last couple of years between all the various trips and things I've done. And that tent is bomber. You can always set something up badly to the point where you can have an issue. You know, if you don't have any sort of a wind break and you're just setting up in the middle of nowhere, tent poles will snap at some point. Even if you have a trekking pole tent, which tend to hold up a little better under high winds, I've had sil nylon tent sides split because I got caught in the Sierra and we had 100-mile-an-hour gusts, you know, hard enough they could just knock you over. And the only protection we can find, we thought it was enough, but it was not. You would think I was a shill for Nemo with how much I love that tent, but no. A friend was messaging their customer support and tried to sell them on, I don't know, using me as a rep or something like that, but you couldn't even get the time of day out of them. So 10 miles on trail this morning, then on road. There are some marked campgrounds along the way. At least the one I was looking at earlier is an ATV style campground, and I generally will avoid those if at all possible. You know, I'm glad people enjoy their stuff, but the ATV campgrounds I've been at have been really bad as far as just clueless folks running generators and blasting music so loud everybody in the damn campground has to hear it. So not my ideal. As long as I'm still in this kind of terrain, though, which I will be for a good while, I kind of suspect I'm going to be able to just stealth off the road and manage something. Speaking of ATVs, I'm pretty sure based on the ruts and the revving dirt bikes I heard off in the distance, this trail is primarily a dirt bike trail. I was asking some of the locals that I was meeting along the way about this trail, and their only familiarity with it was that alternate I turned off of from the CDT. They're like, oh yeah, that's really nice. But they just were doing that little section. Per said locals and weekenders, the weather is supposed to be nice for at least a brief stretch. However, they were saying there were rumbles of the mountains getting snow next week. I don't know when exactly. I kind of poo-pooed it because I'm like pointing up at the 13ers going, there's been snow a couple of times here. You know, there has been a couple of dustings, but we'll see. The forecasts have been so off. I met those people that were basically car-to-car slack packing the Colorado Trail, and they were planning to take a day off because the forecast said, you know, solid rain from sometime in the afternoon all night. And I said, oh yeah, thanks, well, we'll see. And sure enough, I mean, there were a little bit of drips here and there, but it's just been relatively gentle, unsettled weather. The fierce storms that were hitting me in eastern Colorado have kind of ended. The monsoon season's over, and at least so far the heavier winter storms have not arrived. Obviously, with the colder weather and the trees starting to change color, winter is very much in my mind now. Very different from Kansas, where it felt like I was stuck in the middle of an endless, brutal summer. I have been trying with middling success not to get too down on the delays I hit, you know, past Pueblo. I felt like I was ready to take off like a rocket. You know, felt like I handled the visit with my parents well, and then everything fell apart in Colorado Springs, and after a week waiting for my lungs to recover, my feet fell apart. But you know, that's the sort of thing you just can't control. You do longer trails, sometimes you get lucky. I think my first 2 years I never even had a cold out here. Obviously, when I did the CDT, that all caught up with me, and I had more than my share with, you know, COVID, noro, etc. I am still intending to make the best time I can. I am intending to get as far as I can. However, at a certain point, I don't really intend to force it. I mean, could I walk Highway 80 from Reno down into California and finish that way? Yeah, probably. Well, maybe not on 80 exactly, because I don't think they allow pedestrians, but you know, there are possibilities like that. I tend to not like things like that. I feel like it's ruining the experience in exchange for, you know, the bragging rights, basically. I kind of figure, hey, if I finish Utah, get through all the water caches and everything, so Bob doesn't have to account for me 2 years in a row, that's all good. If I can get to Reno, even better. There's still a part of me that would really, really love to get to San Francisco, but again, all I can do is what I can do. Per the Utah coordinator, usually the trail through Utah is passable through November sometime. Nevada can be a crapshoot. I have spent a lot of time peak bagging and such, and backpacking out in the desert during the winter. That used to be what I did. I was in the Sierra during the summer and the desert during the winter. And sometimes it's great, and sometimes you're out on these wide open plains with like a blizzard going, which can make it quite inhospitable. With the gear I have right now, I am good up until the point where the ground gets cold. If you were watching me on the CDT last year, Black Hills was basically where the dirt started to get cold enough where I was feeling cold coming up from below. At that point, I need to get an air mattress. I try and avoid that because air mattresses are a pain, and I am notorious for putting holes in them despite every precaution. But beyond that, I'm pretty ready to go through, early winter with what I got. When I'm leading the wilderness class snow camp, I do use a slightly heavier sleeping bag and also a slightly heavier down jacket. Obviously, if I am wading through shin deep snow, the light hiker shoes aren't going to work. That's actually one of my bigger things because I have real difficulties with shoes. People are always sending comments or emailing me going, oh, I use Hoka's or Solomon's or this or that, and they're great. And, great, but the thing with shoes is they're very personal because we have very diverse feet between people. I mean, what works for one doesn't work for another. The closest you're going to get to a universal fit is something like Ultras, where they're just clown shoes basically containing your feet. I have tried so many boots. I have some snow climbing boots that work for me, some technical ones, they work with crampons and everything. But I can't do 100 miles in those. It would kill my shins. I have some Sorel heavier, like insulated boots I use for, snow camp and things, where at most we're probably doing 10 miles. I could switch to those, but all of the pain that I went through with breaking my shoes in early on and getting my feet used to things, that can crop back up. I have training on using ice and experience using ice axe, crampons, ropes, etc. However, personally, I find it a much different thing to be going up a dangerous snow slope with an ice axe and a day pack versus with 20, 30 pounds on my back. One is way more likely that I can recover if I lose my balance. It's extra weight that you have to stop if you're trying to self-arrest. And often you have to do that really, really quick or else you're in trouble. So that's basically just my long way talking around the fact that I do not intend to just move forward saying, oh, well, if it's the middle of winter, I'll still do the Sierra crossing. Schedule-wise, I need to be back in SoCal in about 3 months, just in time to do a couple of things and then get ready for the Christmas dive trip we're doing to Raja Ampat, and maybe do a WTC meeting before I leave. I can hike basically until end of November, early December. Once I leave the trail, I've got to get back to Colorado at my parents', grab all my stuff, grab the Jeep, and then it'll be a 2.5 day drive back to Southern California yet again. At the moment, I am not at my most hopeful just because it's been a frustrating section here. I felt like right around when Jen left, I was kicking ass, taking names, and I felt like I was within my window, and now I'm having more doubts. But no matter what, I mean, if, let's say I just finished Utah, the Yukon is happening next year, I will be free and clear by mid-August, meaning I can be, hiking and finishing this off by late August probably. And I will be basically perfect for a fall crossing of the PCT. And before anybody asks, no, I don't intend to back up and do the northern alternate in the central US. Stuff like that makes no sense to me unless people are just trying to justify, oh, I'm the first to do XYZ. When you start talking about hiking like all trail, that falls apart pretty quick. I was joking with somebody back in Twin Lakes. Yeah, can you imagine that? Taking that to the CDT. Okay, I'm going to be the first person to do every mile of every alternate of the CDT. My goal from the get-go has been east-west crossing, the longer 4,800 mile version, taking the southern middle, and then just sticking to the red line. So hopefully I have about 2 weeks left of Colorado-ish, maybe a little less if I can start getting more reasonable miles and my feet behave. I am starting to really look forward to the desert. It's going to be the perfect season for it. And I just love the desert vistas in general. I love the mountains. I love the desert. I love the ocean. I love everything except civilization. But you know, civilization does bring coffee and nachos, so even it has its moments. Well, crap. I can't tell if I missed a junction or if they rerouted things. Okay, I shortcutted across cross country. Still don't know if I missed something. So I just had another batch of like 10 dirt bikes come by. Part of the reason why this trail is a dirt bike trail is it is actually just outside of the collegiate wilderness. When I was looking, I couldn't even tell if I was on a trail for sure because it was sticking so close to the line. Man, this wasn't signed. I was about to get my feet wet again. Oh, it was fun being up in the high country. Looks like I'm going to be on roads for a little bit. So this has been pretty crummy, basically like the Rampart Road with a lot of ATV and dirt bike traffic. Looks like once I get past the campground, a few more miles past that, I'll be back on trail as I go to like Taylor Lake, Taylor Pass, and then to the southwest. This is the old Dorchester guard station. I'm not sure if it's still being used or if this is just people camping at it. Okay, done with the road for now. Looking ahead, it looks like I'm going to be either on a trail or what I'm afraid is it's going to be another dirt bike road. I go back this canyon to Taylor Lake, Taylor Pass, and then cut south. Unfortunately, I'm not moving quite as fast as I'd hoped today, mostly again due to the dirt bike road. So I don't know if I'm making Crested Butte realistically by tomorrow night. On the plus side, colors are spectacular. Okay, 7 o'clock. I'm going to push on a little further, but I'm going to fill up for the night. Okay, so my water fill up might be a little less than pristine. This is the actual road up to Taylor Pass. Okay, I decided to pull over. I was going to get up to at least Taylor Pass, but yeah. I made 21 miles or so I'm doing okay. I was hoping for a little more, but it is what it is. My feet are continuing as they are. I'm making progress. I did notice I'm not done with the climbs. Looking ahead on the map, the trail actually goes up above 12K again tomorrow, so home sweet home. And I am really, really looking forward to when I do not have to eat Northsides anymore.